Okay. Well, I talked about in a video that 2019 is when Tacoma becomes alive. And that's very true. But 2022 is when Tacoma gets better transportation. Now, what I mean by this, and I have to write all this down because otherwise I would forget. But basically, I alluded to in that video that talks about Tacoma coming alive that the Tacoma Link extension has started, right? So Monday in November, which is the, what is it? The 12th or 13th. So on the 13th, Sound Transit broke ground for the expanded Tacoma Link light rail extension. Now they're adding 2.4 miles of light rail, which will basically double what they currently already have. They're already, a bit ago, started working on the maintenance facility, expanding it to actually complete this. Now, this particular project's going to add 6 more stations or 6 more stops going up through the Hilltop District. Now, a lot of people feel that this is a great thing, but also it encourages more gentrification because people are going to want to locate there. In fact, a lot of projects have been developed in terms of housing because of the expansion. So I think that you're going to see a lot more of that. Now, this expansion is going to be needed because obviously there's several different things. Currently, the existing Tacoma Link is pretty slow in terms of just waiting from one train to the next. They're going to speed that up once they actually add this extension. They're going to have more trains, so they're going to double the amount. I think they have 3. I think they're going to add 6 more to the line. So they're going to definitely ramp up and have a lot more trains, more frequent access, and also eventually the rumor is the streetcars will be a lot longer. So they call it light rail, but technically they're streetcars. So they can be a little bit confusing for some, but that is going to open in the year 2022. So that's a really big deal. Now, what's going to happen in 2030, I believe, is when the Tacoma Dome is connected to the rest of Seattle using the true light rail system. Now, these are going to be, we're going to be known as the Green Line. So if you want to head from Tacoma to Seattle or Seattle to Tacoma, you go along the Green Line, and basically this is going to open up in 2030, and so that brings light rail access all the way here, so you can get on the light rail anytime and head up to Seattle. That's going to be a big deal because then we'll be connected to pretty much every major city or major area in the region except for Everett, which will get it much later. Also, West Seattle will get it much later, that type of thing. But the Tacoma Dome is going to be a major hub because obviously the Tacoma Link, which is the light rail here, ends there and starts there, but also the light rail system from Seattle will end right there at the Tacoma Dome. Not only that, the other part of this, when I say that Tacoma gets transportation in 2022, is the new high-capacity transit system. And this is basically just BRT. So Bus Rapid Transit is coming to Tacoma. Now, this will not end at the Tacoma Dome, but it would actually go to the Tacoma Dome and further into downtown Tacoma. And it's going to go through the Commencement or Commerce Street transfer station. So if you were to get on the light rail, and the reason why this is important is because due to both of these being completed roughly at the same time, different times during the year in 2022, but roughly close to the same time, people who are up in Hilltop or what have you in the Stadium District can easily connect to the Commerce Street transfer station via the link and then get on the Bus Rapid Transit and literally go further into the city of Tacoma. Now, this corridor is going to go all the way, as I mentioned, from Commerce Street all the way to the Tacoma Dome, but then from the Tacoma Dome all the way up through Pack Avenue. That entire line is going to be about 14.4 miles. If they can get all the money that they need, it's going to go all the way from downtown Tacoma all the way up through Parkland, and then all the way to Spanaway. It's going to end at the Walmart in Spanaway. This is a really big deal because now we're connecting suburbs to Tacoma. We haven't really done that before here in terms of just high-speed access, if you can call it that. Sure, there's buses that can take you to different places, but we don't have the light rail doesn't connect any place other than downtown. And our express buses do take you from here to Seattle, but that's basically it. This literally now allows Tacoma to really kind of expand its transportation options by connecting people to who live in the suburbs directly into downtown. Now, along this corridor, it is needed because there's a lot of vacant lots. There's a lot of businesses and boarded up places that need to actually have life. And I think that by having this system, and it's also the busiest bus route, it's bus route 1. But by having businesses see that there's obviously going to be more people coming through the area in a much more faster clip, I think that you're going to see a huge change in that. Now, the reason why BRT was chosen over other options, because they were looking at streetcar, they were looking at light rail, they were looking at commuter rail. I don't know how you would get commuter rail up and down the street, but anyway. They were actually thinking of those different options, and BRT was one of the options that the community as well as experts, they agreed that that would be the best option. It would actually be built a lot faster. They're really and truly going to build a true BRT system is what they're claiming. Now, when we look at these two projects, we're talking a huge amount of money. Combined, we're talking about $367 million. So by the year 2022, both the Link Light Rail system, which is the bulk of the money, because I mean, obviously, it's only going to be 2.4 miles, but it costs, what is it, 100? No. Where did I put that? It's going to cost $217 million. And supposedly we have most of that money, if not all of it. So $217 million to build that 2.4 mile extension. The BRT system, which is going to be 14.4 miles, is going to cost about $168 million. Combined, $367 million. And you're looking at about 16 to 17 miles of basically new high-capacity transit being added to Tacoma by the year 2022. That's pretty big. I mean, when you compare it to other cities like Indianapolis, for example, they're just now trying to get the Red Line, which is their BRT system, up and going. And it took a long time for that to happen. They don't have any rail there. Albuquerque, New Mexico, they don't have any rail except for their commuter train. But they are trying to get their ART bus rapid transit system up and running. And it has had such a massive issue. They're not, the biggest problem with it first was obviously the construction bothered a lot of people because it's going through a very historic area of Albuquerque, Route 66. And so a lot of businesses had to shut down. Also, there's a section too in Albuquerque where the roads are very narrow. And this is taking up a portion of the road. It's going to be a dedicated bus route. So a lot of people hated that. And then also being able to turn from different roads like they normally would have been able to, they're not able to do that any longer. So people are upset. And then the company that built the buses, which were all electric, there was issues with that. So now the city and that bus company are having a huge issue because they were wanting to have electric buses. It's not going to happen now. And so the city will not probably get the system up and running for another 18 months, they claim. Meanwhile, in that time frame, in 18 months, imagine, that's basically, what, almost 2 years. In that time frame, which will be 2020, 21, something like that, we would be almost done with 2 projects here. And that's not a thumb in the eye to those 2 cities, Indianapolis or Albuquerque. But it's just that here we are under such pressure to expand our transportation network very quickly. The population growth here is immense. Already, we are catching up with Spokane. I'm going to pass Spokane in population. Spokane is the second largest city, but barely at this point. Tacoma could pass that city very quickly. Obviously, Seattle is feeding a lot of this growth because people can't afford Seattle. And so this area is going to grow just naturally, whether you have Amazon or not. It's going to grow naturally because of the simple fact that there's a lot of people moving in here. There's a lot of jobs that are here and that have to be filled. So it is really going to be a nightmare. When you think about adding 60% more people to this area in the next 20 years, they claim, that's a truckload of people. I mean, imagine Tacoma having 60% more than what it has right now. That's insane. That's literally the size of some big cities out in the Midwest, what's considered to be big cities like St. Louis. That basically, Tacoma will be the size of St. Louis in the next few years. So that is crazy. And so we have to think of ways to actually support it. And we are a very compact city. Seattle is very compact, but Tacoma is not that spread out of a city. So obviously things have to be built up. And these two projects are trying to get ahead of that huge population influx. Also, given the fact that we have good highways here is great, but the roads here are starting to get saturated. I remember in Seattle, when we were there, I'm like, the roads are just crowded. And coming here, it was a relief because the roads just seemed like they were fine. It wasn't that bad. You slowly start to see traffic increase. You slowly start to see more backups. You start to see more accidents. More things are starting to happen because we're getting more and more people moving in. I mean, we just saw a couple of families actually move in just the other day, right? So definitely the region is definitely growing. These two projects are going to help. So in 2022, two big projects. The light rail system will expand here in the city and will be completed and opening at that point in time. And then the BRT system will literally be created here, the first BRT line that the city of Tacoma has. Probably not the only one. The current mayor wants to have more of these. But the BRT system will open from Spanaway to downtown Tacoma in the year 2022. A total of 14.4 miles. And the Tacoma link will actually be extended by 2.4 miles, right? So anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.